welcome to the Steps to Happiness show on Soul Livity TV. I'm your host, Teresa Greco, happiness coach, author, editor, writer, educator, and Reiki master. Are you ready to follow your joy and tap into your inner happiness? Then the Steps to Happiness show is for you. On my show, my guests and I explore the latest physical, mental, emotional, and spiritual well-being practices that can help lead you back to the happiness within you. The happiness principle for today's show is about transforming fear into happiness and hope. Let me ask you, in a time with so much uncertainty, how do you remain calm and not react to the turbulent situations that seem to arise in the world every day? How do you avoid the fight or flight response in the body when particular circumstances can cause you to feel anxious? When it seems that outside forces are blocking your path, do you give up and think, I just don't have what it takes to succeed? Whether at work, in your relationships, or even in your everyday problems, what is your typical reaction to adverse situations? Do you immediately move toward feelings of, oh, why me? Or do you pause and think, what is my life trying to teach me at this moment? How you respond to difficult things that have happened to you or are happening around you can mean the difference between a life of anger, anxiety, depression, and despair, or a life of joy, peace, tranquility, and hope. Especially in uncertain times, forces out there feel beyond our control, and fear can hold us back. Ultimately, it is not the unpredictable political or personal circumstances outside of us that determine whether we respond with fear or with peace and hope. Instead, one must accept the reality that external events are not under our control. The only thing we can control is our response to those events. On today's show, we'll be talking about fear, what it really is, and the steps that we can take to transform those feelings of fear into peace and happiness. I'll see you after the break, and I'll introduce my first guest. Welcome back to the show. I'd like to introduce my guest. She's an intuitive, spiritual mentor and author. Teaching for 20 plus years, she currently coaches women on hearing, trusting, and following their intuition, shaking off fear, and being confident in their authentic path. Allison Sutter, hello and welcome to the show.
Thank you for having me. It's great to be here.
So, Allison, I'd love to dive into understanding more about fear with you today, especially in the times that we're living in. Fear is all around us, paralyzing many of us. And so it's so important that we understand more about what it is, why it exists, why do we have it, how do we deal with it. So why don't we start off with what is fear? And the second part is, and then why do we have it?
Sure. So I like to look at it in the context of sort of an interpersonal journey, right? Not what's necessarily, like those bear chasing you type of situations. That's not what we're talking about in this context. We're talking about the kinds of situations that come up where, like, I couldn't do that, or I'm scared of putting myself out there. That's the way that I'm really looking at it. So when we talk about fear, I wanted to understand what that was for me personally. And it was really about, I didn't think I was good enough to do the things that I wanted to do. I didn't understand that. And now I understand it's really when you, not in terms of like your personal safety, right? We're not talking about that, but in terms of like when you're going forth to get what you want in life, to do the things that you want, to explore the things that you want, it's really a guidance system that tells you when you're out of alignment with your inner being, your true self. And so you really have to begin to examine what that looks like in you and know when it's the difference between excitement and fear, because we're coached to believe that, when you're like scared of doing something, people go, "Oh, you're just excited." You're like, "No, actually, I'm really very scared. I'm fearful of doing this thing." And unless you begin to determine the difference between true excitement and fear, you have to discern that, right? You have to begin to weed out what is it I'm really scared of and what is I'm excited about. And then there are different layers of belief systems that get, that are sort of mixed in there, that you might believe, well, I
Mhm.
can't actually do this thing. I don't have enough education. I don't have enough money. I don't have enough time. Right. So that's kind of what the way I deal with fear. Um, and it is really a guidance system. It just tells you when you're out of alignment so you can move your way gently and gracefully back into alignment.
Mhm. So it's a little bit different. So the safety factor of fear, let's say, that would prevent us from jumping off a bridge
Yeah.
and hurting us, or even that we'll see that maybe that innate sense of fear with little children, right? I know there was studies done that where children were brought to an edge of a table when, as
Mhm.
infants, and that they innately knew that they needed to back away from it, and that it was unsafe for them. So if we'll separate the two situations from the fear that is keeping us safe and alive
Mhm.
versus the
Yep.
fear that's preventing us from living our truest potential and the life that we came here to live. So thank you for
Yeah.
making that distinction, because yes, they are different. Absolutely. And I think
Yeah.
it's the second fear, the one that we're going to dive deeper into today, that is preventing us from living the life that we came here to live, that we have this internal compass, let's say, and that internal potential and that drive and willingness to go in a certain direction, to pursue certain goals and aspirations that we have inside of our heart to do.
Mhm.
That there's this path that we've carved out for ourselves before we've come here to earth, to live this human experience, and that guidance system will lead us toward that. And so when if you could talk a little bit about why do we have it then, that, as you said, there's this compass, a sort of, we look at
Mhm.
it as a way of bringing us closer towards living our true purpose.
Right. Well, to me, and the way I've learned about it and the way I differentiate it, it's based on belief systems. So if you have a belief system that I'm not worthy, I can't do it, um, that when you're funneling, so I work a lot in the realm of, spirit consciousness, that type of thing. And if you have a belief system that says, I'm not worthy, and you're funneling your energy through that belief system, emotion is the first trigger. Emotion is the first manifestation, let's say. That's how you're funneling that's where you're directing your energy. And so it's basically an indicating system. So if you have a belief, an active belief that says, I can't do this, I'm not worthy, I'm going down the wrong path, or something to that extent, you will feel it. So it's really, really beneficial in that regard to be able to feel it, because then you're like, oh, wait, I'm like this infinite creator and I have all of this capacity and capability. And I'm currently funneling my energy through a constricting belief system. And it's coming out in some derivation of fear. So you really want to know that so you can turn in a different direction, and begin to soften a little bit, begin to expand back into this holistic capability that is the real you, right? The real you is infinite. It's magnificent. It's tapped into intuition, and fear is fear is what people call negative, but I also look at it as constricting. And so if something is constricting, it's leaving out of the whole a
Mhm.
lot of information. And so that's what fear really does. It constricts you. It leaves out of the whole picture a lot of information, intuition, a lot of things that are helping you get to where you want to go. So if you soften, you expand and you include, and you're more apt to pick up signs and signals and synchronicities and basically have a better time. So that's kind of like how I begin to differentiate what can be a very discombobulating experience.
Mhm. Mhm. Now, they say that there is really only two emotions. There's love and fear. Fear is just the illusion that we are love. I believe we are love, peace, and happiness at our core. Our original nature, our true essence is all of those things. And that fear and all the negative emotions that we can feel are not our true essence. And that
Mhm.
those, as I hear you as you're speaking, are those emotions that are there to allow us to know that we're not on path, that we're not in alignment with the love, peace, and happiness. Because when we're feeling angry, when we're feeling frustrated, when we're feeling that things are chaotic, when things are not working the way they need to, and we're feeling fear and restricted or constricted, that those are all clues for us to tune into to say, oh, I'm feeling like this because I'm not in alignment with who I really am. And so you
Yes.
wrote a book entitled Accelerate Your Mojo: 7 Simple Steps to Ignite Intuition, Shake Off Fear, and Unleash the Real You, where you talk about learning how to trust and embrace that unknown and to let go of that need to know how everything's going to work out and how it's all going to, that's us projecting into the future, that need to for safety, I guess, too, and for fear that if it doesn't work out, then what? So all of that can be tied in. So how can we then learn to lean into it, as you said, to soften, as you mentioned, so that we can be
Mhm.
more in uh, allowing for things to unfold maybe as they need to?
Well, I'll give you a formula, and anyone can follow this formula because I don't believe in prescriptive steps. A lot of what I teach is based on intuition. So I'll give a formula. And if a person follows that formula, they will get the how part of what they need. And it goes like this: it goes, follow your highest level of excitement from the choices you have before you in any given moment. Take it as far as you can take it till you can't take it any farther, and don't demand that passion becomes something specific. That's where a lot of people get into
Mhm.
trouble, is they're like, "Oh, I thought it was supposed to be like this," and they demand and they constrict, and then stay in a positive mindset no matter what. If you follow that formula, you are it's sort of a structure of reality. So you are including all of the experiences that you need, the information, the synchronicities, the path forward. That's how you soften, right? Because if I say to you, you have to meditate for 2 hours a day, and that's the path, but you're like, I don't like to meditate, right? It's not the path for you. So my work is all about following your intuition. So if you do that, you are good.
Yes, absolutely. In our spiritual self, that intuition, that gut instinct, all of that, whatever you like to call it, is that little voice inside of us that is tapped into our higher self, or even source energy, or
Yeah.
whatever again you want to call it, that is helping us to live the life that we came here to live. And so I agree that if we learn to listen and to that communication of that part of ourselves, then we can do exactly what you just said. Now, I would love for you to repeat that again, but if we could
Yep.
take it into like the different parts of it. So the first part of
Absolutely.
it was,
So it's follow your highest level of excitement. Now, you may be not so great today, right? So if you're in a place where you're not so great, your highest level, let's just start at the bottom. If you're depressed, something a little bit higher than that, right? From the choices that you have before you, don't make stuff up, don't invent stuff, don't be like I wish I had this. Just, from the choices that you have before you, follow your highest level of excitement. That depends on you. It depends on where you are, it depends on your life, it depends on how you can where you can go emotionally from where you are. So follow your highest level of excitement from the choices that you have before you at any given moment. Take it as far as you can take it, right? Like when I'm writing a book, there's only so far I can take it that day. And then
Mm-hmm.
you're just gonna, not gonna force it, right? You're gonna follow the natural rhythms of your day based on the stuff that you have to do. Maybe you're a mom or a dad you've got a job, you've got, these things that you're doing in your life. Just let it naturally and unfold for you. Um, don't force it. So when I say this is difficult for people who set goals, because when you set a goal, you try to envision exactly what it's going to be, and you set a date and you set a time, and you're like, it has to be like this. What I'm
Yeah.
telling you is the opposite. Let it just become what it's supposed to become. And then don't, you know, stay in a positive mindset as much as possible, as much as humanly possible. So that's kind of the basic formula. That's the structure of reality. If you do that, you have all the synchronicities that you need. You get in touch with the right people. You have all the right information, and you learn to trust that you actually are on the right path always. Right,
Mm-hmm.
always, no matter what happens, always you're on the right path.
Thank you. So I'm just reflecting on myself in all those different steps, and I'll say that the part that I feel like I get tripped up on is the pushing yourself to that point and then not having any judgment about it, right? That then I feel because I'm so hard on myself, I just feel like, well, I should have done a little bit more. Or, I recently went away and then I didn't do some of the things that I had initially planned to do. And then I feel like there's all this kind of like guilt and pressure we put on ourselves and disappointment when we get hard on ourselves. Or if things don't turn out, if you're a perfectionist, they don't turn out the way maybe you had thought they would. And then again, there's all this like guilt and shame and all these negative feelings. So I feel like when I get tripped up on that part, that I need to remind myself to let that part go and to be okay with it and to allow it to unfold as it should. And then the last part about trying to stay positive about it, because I think we can go into that, especially the perfectionists can go into that rabbit hole of feeling like you're never doing enough and it's never turning out the way that you want it to.
So if we really do trust that we're always on the right path and that we're always doing enough, see that's where emotion comes in, right? If you have a negative emotion about something that's happening, it's because you're funneling your consciousness through an active belief system, and the active belief system usually is I didn't do enough.
Mhm.
I should have done something differently in order to do better, right? So you can ask yourself, what would I need to believe is true about myself in relationship to this situation to feel the way I do? That exposes what you are funneling your energy through in that moment. So you can
Yes.
say, if I move forward in the way that I want to, what am I fearful is going to happen, right? You want to just expose it, be honest with it,
Yes.
be aware of it so that you can shift and change and focus your energy elsewhere and not necessarily always be funneling it through what are considered negative belief systems.
Yes, thank you. That's true. And it's important that we become consciously aware of those unconscious beliefs that we have that govern the way we live every day. And as you said that, I'm like, oh yes, that's true. There are underlying beliefs that are causing me to feel like I'm not doing enough. That,
Yeah.
many of us are more human doings than we are human beings. And this idea that we always have to be doing and pushing ourselves to the limit, otherwise we're not going to accomplish our goals. And it's like there's a lot. So they in
Yeah.
that amazing, that's just that little formula that you've come up
Yeah.
with, actually can, if you go into each part of it, um, it's actually quite deep, and it allows us to awaken to how we're really living our everyday lives.
Yeah, it's if you just take that one statement and you really digest it and you really follow it and you're honest with yourself, you will
Mhm.
see for yourself and expose for yourself your own limitations in your belief systems. You will see where you are focusing your energy. And then once you're aware of it, a lot of people um, have been trained to think they can't go into those negative belief systems and look at them because they feel like they're gonna, it's going to take them over, right? It feels like they're
Mhm.
going to be encompassed by this negative energy. But when you expose it, it really loses its power, right? It doesn't
Mhm.
govern us the way that it does when you're trying to hide from it, or you're trying to keep it a secret, or you don't acknowledge that you actually feel that way. And fear is like that for a lot of people. They've been trained that if they, even look at it or examine it, that they're weak, or they look at it as a some kind of universal statement that they're on the wrong path or going in the wrong way. And it's like, no, it's just a signaling system to how you are funneling your consciousness. Where are you putting it through? What kind of belief system? One in which
Mhm.
constricts, or one in which is expansive, inclusive, and benevolent versus something else. And so it's just, you just got to know where you are, really putting your energy in that time, and just learn more about it. Learn more about
Mhm.
yourself as a
Mhm.
consciousness that's functioning in this time space
Mhm.
reality.
And they are all limiting beliefs. It's all part of the programming, the conditions, the paradigms that we live by unconsciously on autopilot, not really
Yeah.
questioning it. And if they're limiting us from living our fullest potential and the life that we really want to live, it's important that we do expose them and look at them. So thank you for pointing that out. Now, the last part of it, can you repeat that part again about being positive or something?
Or something, right? um, so I'll say the last two pieces. Don't demand that it becomes something specific. Your imagination is going to get carried away, right? It's going to think it knows what the answer is supposed to be. And when people say that's not what I thought it was, that's your trigger to know that you thought it was supposed to be something specific. Like it was supposed to look or
Mm,
be like this situation, the relationship,
mm,
the
mm.
job,
Yeah.
the whatever.
Yes.
So technically, it's the formula is stay in a positive mindset no matter what. I find that triggering for a lot of humans because like I can't do
Mhm.
that. So I simply say stay in a positive mindset, or a positive-ish mindset, as often as you can, right? Soften it. Don't demand something of yourself that you don't think you're capable of doing. Just and what that is invitation to look at something from a different perspective. Um,
Mm.
there is always going to be a challenge or challenges in your life, which just means
Mhm.
something went in a direction you didn't anticipate, something you didn't prefer. So I challenge you, I invite you to learn to look at things from a different POV, right? In writing, you have a POV, a point of view about a character, or a character has a point of view, right?
Yes.
Exercise your ability to literally do some psychic shifts. And reading is a great way to do that. But when you have a different, when you understand your ability to literally shift your POV, you can shift your point of view on your own experiences and ask yourself, okay, so if there's positive and negative and neutral, and I have the capability of looking at this situation on any of these different angles, I invite that.
Mhm.
What in this situation can I extract that benefits me, that lets me know
Yeah.
more about myself in a way that I think would be really interesting?
Yes, I agree. And many of us are stuck in our own perspective, right? 99% of how we navigate or see the world is through our own lens of perception. And so it can be difficult for people to see a situation differently. So, for example, my daughter and I are watching Bachelor on TV, and we're watching the the bachelorettes there, and they are, they're stuck in this situation and they're only seeing it from a certain point of view, and I'm looking at it going, wow, like it's not actually like I don't see it in the same way that you're seeing it, and we get so stuck in that. And so it is, I love the idea of an invitation to try to see it from another angle, and that we all, a lot of us is always a why me, instead of like, how is this for me, or how can I see it in a more positive way. At first when you said it, I was like, oh, I just feel like that's, how can we put a positive twist on this when we're not feeling really positive about it? And I think that that's really That's really hard to do when you don't feel really positive about it. But
Yeah.
maybe, yes, that trying to see it from a different point of view can then get you, because it all starts at the level of the mind first, right? Our thoughts then lead us into the emotions. And so if we can think about it in a different way, then we might feel differently about it afterwards.
Well, when you watch television, you don't I bet you don't even know how many times, or you don't pay attention to how many times the camera is shifting point of view. Pay attention to how many times that
Mm,
camera is actually shifting its point of view, and notice how seamless it seems to you. You can do the same thing as a conscious creator. You can shift your point of view, take all the angles in. Yes, there's constriction. Yes, there's expansion. Yes, there's neutrality. Which point of view would I like to take at this moment? And don't force positivity on yourself. That's toxic positivity. If you're just not in the mood, just let it go. Go to bed, take a nap, do something
mm,
fun. Come at it at a time where you're feeling a little less triggered, a little less,
mm,
you know,
mhm,
stuck. Just don't force anything to happen, and even your point of view when you're just not ready, because it's not
mhm,
fun. A lot of work.
mhm. Right, right. So I have time for just one more quick question, which is how can we bring ourselves back to the love, peace, and happiness that we are? As I said, if there is only love and fear is just the illusion or false evidence appearing real. Some people, I like that acronym when we place it like that. And so if that is true about us, how can
Mhm.
what quick steps that we can take to remember who we really are so that we don't get sucked into the fear, but we can stay connected and return ourselves to that which we really are?
Follow that formula. Follow it in everything from the socks that you wear to the food that you eat to what you're going to do next in your day. That will softly and securely and systematically return you to that place of inner peace, because you are following your inner guidance. You are following your intuition, and your intuition is a benevolent energy leading you down the path of least resistance to everything that you want.
Yeah.
So you know what? If you're in a low place, maybe the path of least resistance or the highest excitement is just watching Netflix or a show on TV. Maybe it's going to take a walk. Maybe it's calling that colleague. Maybe like it depends on you. You have to know what you are being inspired to do to help you softly and smoothly get back to that place of life is good. It's easy. It's okay. I'm going to be okay.
Mhm. And if we can trust that it is always unfolding exactly as it needs to, it's that trusting in how
Mm.
that everything is exactly perfect in every moment. It's yeah, and I
Yep.
love that. If we can just release into that, it's just like, oh, a huge weight is like taken off your shoulders to say like everything is exact, you are exactly perfect exactly as you are, and nothing needs to be different. It's exactly perfect.
Mhm. Yeah, you just have to begin to witness and be aware of the ways in which things are always working out for you, even when you don't know how, and then connect the dots, because that's going to be a statement that goes right over most people's heads at the beginning. And then say it again and then prove to yourself, oh, okay, I see how things are always working out for me. And a lot of it's hindsight, but it can be foresight as well. So
Mhm.
just be easy to us that it's all a step along the way. We're never done. We never get it done. We're never, making a mistake. It's
Mhm.
all good.
Yes, thank you so much. Now, Allison, if people want to connect with you after the show, how can they do that?
You can go to my website. It's just AllisonSutter.com, or I do a lot on Instagram, Allison Sutter 3, and that will lead you in the directions that you need to go.
Awesome. Thank you so much for being on the show today and talking to us more about fear, understanding its purpose, how it acts in our lives, and how we can transform it to live our greatest life.
Absolutely. My pleasure.
I'd like to leave you with the thought for the day. Fear is often felt in uncertain situations and times of change. Everything depends on how we choose to relate to uncertainty, which is just life's constant stream of new events and challenges. Great things can emerge from uncertainty, such as the next important discovery, realization, or insight. With change comes renewal, which we see in nature every spring, every sunrise, and with every new birth. So, why do many of us suffer through crisis and uncertain times with self-doubt and fear, leaving us feeling weak, helpless, and insecure? These feelings are clues that are telling us we are disconnected from our essential self and true nature. Feeling anxious or stressed is your body's way of telling you that what is happening around you is not in alignment with your higher self. This is your body sending you signals to take action, to realign yourself with your inner spirit's natural state, which is joy, peace, and love. When we lose touch with our spirit is when we can start to feel negative emotions, have doubts, and are not sure what to do. When you don't know what to do and things feel chaotic, that is the time to get still. Meditation can assist you with centering yourself and reconnecting with the peacefulness of your inner spirit. Practicing mindfulness at any point during the day when negative emotions seem to be getting the best of you. You can just take some few long, deep breaths, and it'll bring you back to yourself in just a few minutes. By staying connected to our spirit and being in the now, we can remain untouched by fear by placing our trust in our true self at every moment to remain grounded in hope, peace, and happiness. Thank you for joining me today, and I look forward to being with you next week on the Steps to Happiness show with Teresa Greco.